In this lesson, I want to talk about mentoring and the role of mentoring in the lives of young preachers. Very interesting story. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, was going off to the Trojan War, and he needed someone to oversee and also be a trusted advisor for his family, particularly his son, Telemachus. Odysseus put in charge of his household a man whose name was Mentor. And so Mentor became the one in the stead of the father, giving oversight to the family and a trusted advisor, particularly to the son. So when we think about mentoring in ministry, let's think about it as being instead of our Father, who is God, and overseeing and providing trusted advice to young people in ministry. How can I help them to become all of who the Father has for them to become? I have a few nuggets that I'd like to encourage you as a mentor to provide for your mentees. One, challenge them. Challenge them to become who God has called for them to become, but also challenge them as it relates to their character, which is their public expression of who they are. And then integrity, which is their private expression of who they are. I believe that character and integrity are two sides to the same coin. It has to do with who one is more than what one does. In fact, when a preacher stands before the audience, they must stand before the congregation as one who comes out of the congregation. In other words, they're sheep in the fold who stand up in front of sheep. But as a sheep, we must also seek to become who God has for us to become before or alongside learning to do what God has for us to do. And so character has to do with who am I in the face of adversity? Who am I when I'm standing before difficult people and dealing and ministering in difficult situations? Who am I? How do I react to situations that are not favorable toward me? And also, as I mentioned earlier, integrity, that person we are when the lights are out, when we're at home, we're in a room by ourselves, or when we're with other people, but they're not church people. Who are we? How do we behave? What is our conversation? What influence do we have behind the church walls? What influence, how do we handle business? How do we deal with difficult situations that are outside of the church, where there are no Christians? How do we act among non-Christians? Who are we? Who are we becoming? And then the next thing is, how do we inspire our mentees? We must inspire them by something we do, the way we do things, who we are. How do we inspire them to become? So we don't just challenge them to become, we inspire them to become. So inspiring has to do with words of encouragement. While we also will be reproving them at times, we will also be showing them places where they have strength. So identifying their weaknesses, but also complimenting them about their strengths. You know, growing up, when I was a young preacher, my dad was also my mentor. And I remember on Friday nights, my brother and I would preach, and I was only about 15 years old. And I remember oftentimes we would make mistakes, even in the preaching moment. But being given the opportunity itself was of inspiration. So I want to encourage you, number 3, that is to create opportunities for young ministers. It's one thing to have someone we say that we're mentoring. It's another thing to give them opportunity, because it's hard to develop as a preacher or as a minister if you're not given the opportunity to minister. It's like a kid. How would they learn to walk? A little toddler learning to walk if you never encourage them and give them opportunity to walk. So it is giving them the opportunity to fail while they're walking that helps them to develop in their walking skills. And it's the same thing when it comes to speaking, when it comes to doing anything. especially that requires the development of gifts, it is important that we as mentors give our mentees opportunity. Lastly, don't be threatened by your mentees. It's very easy for us to limit our participation in our mentees' lives because we feel that they might try to outshine us or take our stage. I think it's important that as mentors, we have a lot of confidence in who we are as mentors and understand that no one could ever be successful without standing on the shoulders of others. And as a mentor, we're lowering ourselves so that our mentees can stand on our shoulders and that so they can go further than we go. So if they succeed in ways we have not, that is of benefit to the mentor because we are giving them opportunity, and through our mentoring them, they're able to go further. So our role as mentor is to want to see them go further than us, want to see them preach better than us, on bigger stages than us, want to see them have bigger churches than we have. So it's important for us not to be intimidated by those who we're mentoring, but also it is important for us to provide opportunity for them to go further by the resources that we have. I'll give you a story. I have also mentored people that in many ways I thought or have given them advice in going one direction. They have taken my resources and decided to do things differently. That can be wounding to a mentor, and if we're not careful, when we are providing opportunities for our mentees and they come on our stages or get our resources and they don't use them in the way that we think that they should, oftentimes we shut down and we want to turn our backs on our mentees. But as mentors, we have to be willing to stand on the sideline and pray that God will bring them back. Because if we allow our mentees to wound us, we will forfeit our responsibility to mentor them. But it's like a father. A father cannot throw away his son, his daughter, just because they choose to do things that are inappropriate with the resources that we give to them. It's like the prodigal son. Give them what is due them because you are, in this case, as a mentor, in the stead of a father. So allow them to find themselves and come back and continue to mentor them because mentoring is essential to success. No one is an island and no one can succeed by themselves. Everybody needs somebody to help them. And so as a mentor, you are called by God to stand in God's stead to help others to develop and then to succeed.